Have you ever felt it, that strange, tender warmth, rising quietly in the middle of chaos? Maybe it came by the window, or through the lyrics of an old song. It's not loud, not showy, but it touches something ancient in you, something soft, something real, like a smile you forgot you ever had. We live in a world of performances. Smile for the meeting, smile for the camera, smile because you're supposed to be okay. But underneath all of that, beneath the polished roles and the relentless to-do lists, there's another kind of smile, one that doesn't appear in selfies, one that lives in the soul. It's the quiet smile of the child you once were. Before the world told you to armor up, before you learned to hide your softness, this smile doesn't ask for validation, it doesn't seek attention, it just exists, like sunlight, through spring leaves. No permission, no performance, just presence. Maybe you felt it too, in the hush of early morning, when your heart wakes before your mind does, or in an old photo, your younger self, eyes wide open, mid-giggle, mid-dream. That smile is still there, it never left, it's just waiting. And yet, most of us forget, not because we don't care, but because we had to grow up, be responsible, be strong, and in doing so, we left behind the part of us that once made life feel magical, that child, the one who laughed freely, without asking for permission. She's still here, just buried, under be enough, under do it right, under hold it all together. But she still calls to you, not with words, with feelings, with longing, with a gentle ache you can't quite name. I remember a moment, a Tuesday, ordinary. I was in line at the grocery store, exhausted, holding it together like adults do, and behind me, a little girl began humming. No melody, just sound, free, alive. Something in me cracked open. I felt it, that joy, that silliness, that forgotten aliveness. Tears filled my eyes. Not from sadness, but from recognition. That child's hum, it was the same song my own heart used to sing. So let me ask you, when was the last time you felt free, not productive, not perfect, just free? Free in your breath, in your skin, in your being. That freedom isn't gone, it's waiting, waiting for you to remember. Tonight, when the world gets quiet, I invite you to close your eyes, picture your little self, maybe 5, maybe 6, see her face, her wonder, her questions, and gently ask, what do you need from me today? Then, just listen. If she needs to cry, let her. If she needs music, play it. If she needs a hug, wrap your arms around your body and say, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Healing doesn't always begin with big decisions. Sometimes, it begins with a single honest breath, a whisper, a smile, not from your face, but from your soul. That smile, the one you thought you lost, it's still there, waiting, in the stillness, in the remembering, and in that sacred moment, when you choose to return, you don't just find your smile, you find yourself. If this touched something in you, share it with another woman. Let's begin a quiet revolution, one smile at a time. You can have the title, the degrees, the applause, and still feel like something inside is missing. Have you ever noticed how confidence disappears right when you need it most? The answer, it may be hidden in the smallest, quietest part of you, the child within. Carl Jung once wrote, in every adult, there is a child, eternal, unfinished. That child, she's not a memory, not a phase you outgrew, she's an archetype, a living, breathing blueprint, woven into the fabric of your soul. She's not a weakness, she's your origin, the first fire in your heart, the first gasp of awe. When you looked at the sky, she holds your instincts, your intuition, your untamed imagination, and whether you know it or not, she still shapes you, how you speak, how you stand, how you trust. Or don't. Think about it. Every myth, every fairy tale, every culture starts with a child. Why? Because the child is pure potential, a beginning, a possibility, the power to believe in what hasn't happened yet. Peter Pan never grows old, Snow White's heart remains unbroken, and in ancient stories, the sacred child holds the key to wisdom and transformation, and in real life, that sacred child still lives in you. Even if she's been buried under deadlines, under disappointments, under the weight of being an adult. Let me tell you a story. A woman I met, brilliant, respected, powerful, but in high-level meetings, her voice would vanish. She could lead teams, handle pressure, deliver numbers, but when it was time to speak from her heart, she froze. One day, drained and empty, she opened a drawer and found an old box of watercolor paints. On a whim, she picked up a brush, not to paint, but to breathe, to feel, to remember. That moment, it wasn't about art, it was about returning to the place where her courage first lived. Not behind the podium, but at the tip of a paintbrush, because the inner child doesn't just carry softness, she carries your original confidence, the kind that comes not from praise, but from presence, before the world told you who to be. You already knew how to trust yourself, and when you reconnect with her, even for a moment, something shifts, your posture, your tone, your energy. It stops trying to prove and starts quietly radiating. True confidence isn't a performance, it's a remembering. But here's what most people miss: the inner child is not just personal, she's universal, she's part of the collective unconscious. A shared soul pattern we all carry. That's why we cry at lullabies, why we smile when kids chase butterflies, why we're moved by a mother holding her child. These images awaken something deep, a truth that never left us, and when we ignore her, she hides, not forever, just quietly. She trembles when we speak up, she flinches at rejection, she folds when we try to shine, and we wonder why confidence feels so fragile. So what can you do? Not fix, not hustle, not prove. Come home, write her a letter, draw something with no plan, dance barefoot in the kitchen, do what she loved, not because it's productive, but because it's medicine. Let her laugh again. Let her lead, because when the inner child smiles, you don't have to chase confidence, you become it. You've spent years trying to be enough, but maybe, just maybe, you already were, when you were 7, with wild hair and dreams too big to say out loud. Go back, not to stay there, but to remember who you were before the world taught you to forget, because the most powerful woman in the room isn't the one with the loudest voice, she's the one who looks at her younger self and whispers, "I've got you now." And that is where confidence begins. If this stirred something in you, pass it on. Every woman deserves to remember the girl she once was, and let her lead the way home. What if I told you, the confidence you've been chasing, through achievements, through applause, through endless self-improvement, was never missing, it was simply unheard. And the voice that holds your deepest power, it's not loud, it doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it whispers, soft, sacred, still. It's the voice of the child you once were. There's a moment, a single moment, that changes everything. It's the moment she is no longer ignored, no longer silenced, no longer labeled a weakness to outgrow. When she is seen, when she is felt, when she is allowed to speak, something ancient stirs, a current, a quiet wave of life, rising from the center of your soul. And in that moment, confidence no longer feels like armor, it feels like breath, natural, soft, alive. Most women are taught to build strength Like a fortress, stand tall, speak up, act confident, smile on cue, push through, power on. But real strength, real feminine confidence, it doesn't come from performing, it blooms from presence, from softness, from trust, from the part of you that never needed to prove anything in the first place. Remember her, the little girl who twirled in the sunlight without caring how she looked, who spoke to butterflies, who laughed from her belly and cried without shame. She didn't need a seminar on self-worth, she simply knew she belonged, because no one had taught her otherwise. I once knew a woman, a media executive, admired, polished, respected, but every time she had to speak on stage, her throat would tighten, her hands would tremble, until one night, she sat in stillness and wrote a letter to her 7-year-old self. She said the words no one had ever said to her: "I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I made you strong when you needed to be held." She cried, but those tears weren't weakness, they were release, they were a return. The next time she stepped on stage, she didn't perform, she arrived, her voice grounded, her presence undeniable. Why? Because the child within was no longer hiding. Maybe you felt it too, that moment when your body hesitates. But you can't explain why, when you're fully capable, the kind of power that doesn't need to shout to be felt. So tonight, write a letter to the girl you used to be. 7, 10, look at her photo, if you have one. Ask her, what did you need that no one gave you? Then say it all, not to fix her, but to finally stand beside her. Because this isn't just healing, this is reclamation. This is how you take back emotional sovereignty from the hands of the past. And what happens next? You walk different, you speak different, your boundaries become clear, not out of anger, but out of wholeness. You are the woman who can lead a team by day and cry softly by candlelight at night. You are the one who holds space for others while still learning to hold herself. None of these parts cancel each other out, they complete each other, they make you whole. Picture a bronze bell. If its inside is misaligned, no matter how hard you strike it, the sound is dull, flat, lifeless. But when the bell is forged with care, when it is whole on the inside, even the softest tap will make it sing. You are that bell. When your inner world is aligned, you don't need to shout to be heard, you simply resonate. I once met a woman at a workshop. On paper, she had it all. Confident, respected, in control, but she whispered to me, "I feel like I wear a mask for every room, and I don't even know which one is real anymore." That night, we did one simple thing. She wrote a letter to her 6-year-old self, the girl who sang too loudly, cried too quickly, loved too freely. She wept, not out of weakness, but because, for the first time in years, she let all of herself speak. The next morning, her voice was different, slower, softer, but stronger. She said, "I don't have to try so hard anymore, because now, all of me is allowed in the room." So let me ask you, have you been trying to fix parts of you that were never broken? Only misunderstood? Have you silenced the dreamer to favor the doer, buried the child to become the achiever? What if your wholeness is not in becoming someone new, but in remembering who you've always been? Wholeness isn't perfection, it's permission to let every part of you come home, the warrior, the child, the leader, the longing one, all of you, under one name. Because when that happens, even your silence will speak, even your stillness will echo. And that sound, that's not noise, that's a soul coming home. If this message touched you, share it with another woman. Together, not by striving, but by remembering, we become whole. Sometimes, the one who looks the most put together is the one who feels most lost inside. She smiles in meetings, delivers results, checks every single box, but at night, there's a silence she can't explain, a weight, a hunger, a question that never fully leaves her. Is this it? This is Camilla's story, and maybe it's yours, too. Camilla had it all, an executive title, a polished resume, the voice of certainty, but inside, her soul was dry, emotionally barren, disconnected from softness, lightness, and joy. She moved like a machine, efficient, productive, untouchable, until one day, a friend handed her a book, no message, no explanation. Just a title, The Undiscovered Self, Carl Jung. She flipped through it half-heartedly, until one line stopped her cold. What you resist persists. Camilla froze, because in that moment, she knew she hadn't just resisted emotions, she had resisted herself, her sadness, her softness, her need to be held, all buried, in the name of being strong. That night, she didn't open her laptop, she opened a journal, and wrote, "I'm tired, I feel empty, I don't want to keep pretending." Then days later, she closed her eyes, and pictured herself at 6 years old, sitting on a swing, staring at the sky, alone. She walked over, sat beside her, and whispered, "What do you need today?" The child didn't speak, but Camilla felt it, the ache, the longing, the need to be held. So in that stillness, she wrapped her arms around herself, and it shifted something, not dramatically, but deeply. Over the next few weeks, she changed, not on the outside, but from within. Her voice softened, her tone carried warmth, not armor. In meetings, instead of knowing all the answers, she said, "I'm not sure yet. I need more time." And the room didn't collapse. No one judged her. Instead, they leaned in, they breathed easier. One afternoon, a young colleague whispered, "Ever since you changed, it feels easier to breathe around here." Camilla cried that night, but not from pain, from recognition. She realized she didn't have to inspire through perfection, she could inspire through presence. Her healing became an invitation. It gave others permission to slow down, to be human, to be whole. So let me ask you, are you still performing strength, still proving you're fine, still running on empty, hoping no one notices? Maybe it's time to pause, close your eyes, and ask the question Camilla asked, what do you need today? You don't need to fix it all, you just need to show up, because when the inner child feels seen again, your voice changes, your smile deepens, your presence heals, not just you, but everyone around you. If Camilla's story stirred something in you, share it, and tell me in the comments, what did your inner child say when you finally listened? Let's begin a quiet revolution, one smile, one story, one woman returning to herself. Sometimes, the one who looks the most put together is the one who feels most lost inside. She smiles in meetings, delivers results, checks every box, says all the right things, but when the world goes quiet, something inside her echoes, a kind of emptiness that no resume, title, or praise can touch. This is Camilla's story, and maybe it's yours too. Camilla had it all. Executive title, perfect wardrobe, voice like steel, but her soul, dry, brittle, disconnected from joy, from softness, from herself. She moved through life like a machine, efficient, polished, untouchable, until one night, a friend handed her a book, no message, no explanation, just a title, The Undiscovered Self, Carl Jung. She opened it out of curiosity, by chapter 3. She was trembling. One line cracked her open: what you resist persists. And in that moment, she saw the truth. She hadn't just resisted her emotions, she had resisted herself, her tenderness, her sadness, her need to be held, all silenced, in the name of being strong. That night, she didn't open her laptop, she opened a journal, and wrote, "I'm tired, I feel empty, I don't want to keep pretending." Something shifted, not loudly, but deeply. A few days later, she closed her eyes, and pictured her 6-year-old self, alone, on a swing, staring at the sky. She walked toward her in her mind, sat beside her, and asked, "What do you need today?" The little girl didn't speak, but Camila felt it. The longing, the ache, the need to be seen. So she wrapped her arms around herself, and held tight. It sounds small, but to Camila, it was everything. Weeks passed, and things began to shift. Her voice softened. Her eyes lost their sharpness, her presence more open, more real. In meetings, instead of performing answers, she whispered, "I don't know yet. I need more time." And the room didn't collapse. In fact, they leaned in, they breathed easier. One colleague even said, "Since you changed, it feels easier to breathe around here." That night, Camila cried, not from sadness, but from truth. She finally saw, she didn't need to inspire through perfection, she could inspire through presence. So let me ask you, are you still pretending to be okay? Still performing strength? Still checking boxes that don't feed your soul? What if healing isn't loud? What if it begins quietly? With one small question: what do you need today? You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to listen. Because when your inner child feels seen, your smile changes, your voice deepens, your presence becomes healing, not just for you, but for everyone around you. If this story touched you, share it. Let's remind every woman, healing doesn't begin with perfection, it begins with presence. A woman who has come home to herself doesn't burn to be seen, she glows, because she's whole, not because she tried harder, not because she proved her worth, but because she stopped running from herself. She stopped hiding her softness. She stopped dimming her light just to make others comfortable. There is a shift, a quiet one, but powerful. It begins the moment a woman stops performing confidence and starts embodying wholeness. It happens when she stops silencing her inner child and starts loving her, deeply, gently, every part of her. She no longer hustles to be enough. She no longer forces herself to smile when her soul is aching. She no longer seeks permission to rest, to pause, to feel. Instead, she lives from a deeper place, from intuition, from truth, from softness that doesn't apologize for existing. This is awakened femininity, not the kind sold to us in perfection, but the kind we reclaim. In presence, in breath, in silence, you can feel it in her voice. She doesn't answer fast to be right. She waits, she breathes, she listens for truth, not applause. She no longer endures pain to be admired. She doesn't stay just to be seen as strong. She steps away when needed. She chooses peace, not performance. She doesn't shine to prove. She glows, because she's connected, to her soul, to her rhythm, to her roots. This isn't weakness, this is wisdom, the feminine that feels before she fixes, the strength that holds without forcing. We were told for too long, be soft, be silent, then, be strong like a man, don't cry, don't need, don't stop. But the awakened feminine knows, real power lives in harmony. She can lead, and still feel. She can speak softly, and still be heard. She can cry, and still command the room. She is not fire, not ice, she is earth, steady, quiet, alive. She is moon, glowing, changing, whole. Even in shadow, she remembers. She is allowed to feel, she is allowed to rest, she is allowed to be. I met a woman once who said, "I used to speak just to prove I mattered. Now I speak only when my soul rises to the surface." She didn't try to take the room, but somehow, the whole room softened around her, because presence, real presence, is magnetic, and that's the shift. You don't need to become louder, you need to become more honest, more grounded, more you. Let go of the proving, let go of the pleasing, let go of the performance, and return to the girl inside you, the one who danced barefoot, the one who laughed without asking permission, the one who didn't need to earn joy. She simply lived it, because true feminine strength, it doesn't roar, it remembers. It doesn't push, it pulses. It doesn't shout for approval, it whispers, "I'm already enough." So if you're tired of holding it all together, if you're exhausted from trying to be everything, then maybe it's time to stop trying and start returning. Close your eyes, breathe, and ask yourself, what part of me has been waiting to be loved? Because when that part feels seen, when she finally smiles again, you won't just feel strong, you'll feel free. If this message stirred something in you, share it with another woman. Because the world doesn't need more perfect women. It needs more whole ones. You don't have to be fully healed to live fully. You don't need to have it all figured out. Before you allow yourself to feel joy, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to simply show up exactly as you are. We carry this quiet story that healing is a destination, that one day we'll be free from pain, always calm, always clear, always enough. But the truth is softer and far more beautiful. Healing isn't about reaching perfection, it's about presence. It's about learning to sit with yourself, even when you're hurting, even when answers haven't come, even when some days feel like steps backward. It's meeting yourself, not only when you're glowing, but also when you're aching, messy, and unsure, because healing doesn't demand perfection. It asks for honesty. It doesn't shout, "You must be fearless." It whispers, "Can you stay, even when you're afraid?" When you can look into your own eyes, on a day when nothing feels okay, and still say, "I'm here." That is healing. That presence, that quiet willingness to remain, makes everything else possible. Think of your inner child. She doesn't need you to be flawless. She doesn't care if you're enlightened. She just wants one thing, to be held, to be heard, to be allowed, to exist. Each time you sit beside her, with patience, you bring life back into your chest. You soften, you remember, you don't need to be better, to be worthy. You just need to be with yourself. So many of us believe we're loved for being strong, for holding it together, for never breaking. But truthfully, what touches others most is not your perfection, it's your presence, your softness, your willingness to feel, your courage to speak, even when your voice trembles. Not everyone needs you to be flawless, but you need to feel seen. You deserve to live as you truly are. Not an edited version, not a highlight. Real, but whole. So here's a gentle invitation. Today, instead of trying to fix it all, pause, ask yourself, what part of me needs to be witnessed right now? You might feel sadness. You might feel resistance. You might feel nothing at all. But that pause, that sacred breath, is how healing begins. And when you return to it daily, even for just one moment, you begin to reweave what once felt broken. You don't have to shine to be seen. You don't have to smile to be worthy. You don't have to be unbreakable to belong. Healing is not becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before you were told You had to earn your worth, and sometimes the most sacred kind of strength is just this, showing up in the exact condition you're in. So if today you feel incomplete, if you're in the space between what was and what could be, if you're not ready to soar, but you're still willing to stand, then you are already healing, you are already coming home, and every time you choose to stay with yourself, without judgment, without rushing, without shame, you plant a seed of self-trust, deep, unshakable, the kind that says, even when I'm not okay, I am still enough. And maybe, just maybe, that's where real healing begins. If this message touched you, share it, because no woman has to be perfect to be worthy of love, she only needs to be present. The greatest journey you'll ever take is not to a new city, not toward another title, not into someone else's arms. The greatest journey is the one that leads you back to yourself. You don't need to keep searching for strength. You don't need to keep chasing light, because when your inner child finally smiles again, not the kind of smile you fake, but the one born from being seen, being safe, being loved, you no longer need to be strong. You are, not because of what you do, but because of who you are when you're whole. When the child inside you is held gently and fully, you stop craving approval. You become the softest kind of confirmation, the one that whispers, I am already enough, I am already home. And when you walk through the world with the eyes of a little girl who knows she is loved, you don't chase the spotlight. You are the light, not loud, not flashy, but radiant in your being. That kind of presence, no title, no validation, no applause can ever replace. So if you followed this journey with me, through the silence, through the tears, through the remembering, you know now, healing is not about becoming someone new, it's about shedding the stories that told you weren't already whole. It's about the return, the reunion, the remembering, and today, you get to begin again, not with pressure, not with urgency, but with one sacred, small act. Take 5 minutes, just 5, turn off your phone, close your eyes, and picture yourself, not as you are now, but as you were, at 6 years old. Can you see her, the softness in her cheeks, the wonder in her eyes, the questions she didn't know how to ask? Now gently ask her, sweetheart, what do you need most today? And just listen. If she needs tears, let them fall. If she needs music, let it play. If she needs a hug, wrap your arms around your own body and say, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. That one moment, that presence, is how everything begins to change. You don't need to wait to be perfect. You don't need to earn this return. It's already yours, and when you show up for that child within, you aren't just healing yourself, you're healing generations before you, and the ones who will come after. You are reclaiming what was once lost. You are becoming the safe place you once longed for, and in doing so, you light a path for others to find their way home too. So here's what I invite you to do right now. Take a breath, close your eyes, and whisper these words with the tenderness of a mother returning to her child. Sweetheart, I'm here, I'm staying, I've got you now. Then, if it feels right, come back, share that moment in the comments, because every time one woman dares to speak her return, she opens a doorway for thousands of others to walk through. Your voice doesn't just matter, it liberates, it echoes, it heals. This is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of your becoming. Welcome home. If this journey touched something in you, share it. Let's start a quiet revolution, one breath, one memory, one inner child at a time.